right now, Marvel, DC, all of these companies seem to be in disarray. Most of the superhero movies that came out this year flopped. And right now, Matthew Vaughn is promoting a movie. He's got a lot of stuff coming out. And he had a lot to say on Marvel, on DC, and on superheroes in general. I want to go through a list of the things he said because he made a lot of interesting points and he condensed it down into just a couple of short paragraphs. But I thought it'd be interesting to look at all of the things he said here. So it says, Kingsman director Matthew Vaughn knows a thing or two about bringing comic books to the big screen. They talk about Kick-Ass and X-Men First Class, both good movies. In a recent interview with Screen Rant, the director shared his thoughts on the current era of comic book movies. He said poor visual effects are negatively impacting superhero movies, while also sharing his belief that Marvel needs to take a less is more approach. He says, quote, I genuinely don't know what is happening with the superhero genre in the sense that I do think maybe we need a little bit of time off from it. He said, maybe someone will make something so great that we will get excited again. Superhero films are films. It's a film that has superheroes in it. I think what happened is that they became superheroes and the film part wasn't that important. Yeah, there is a difference, and I actually do believe this. There's a fundamental difference between the idea of a superhero film and a film that has superheroes or comic book characters in it. Marvel is what I'd call superhero films.
For the most part.
Kick-Ass is a movie with a superhero character or a comic, not even a superhero, but a comic book character in it, right? And I love that movie.
Same.
See, I would say a little bit of both. Like, The Winter Soldier, I think, is a film. That's like an espionage film that has
I'm broad brushing Marvel. That's my favorite. Out of all of the Marvel movies, that's my favorite, is Winter Soldier. So he goes on, he says, when you're making a superhero movie, you sort of have to work harder because you have to make people believe it, he said. That's why X-Men First Class was pretty grounded. We said it in the Cuban Missile Crisis. They had relatable human problems and it wasn't relying on CG. I think CG's effed up everything as well because you feel like you're watching a video game. You're not with the characters apart from the Guardians. Yes, and that's something we've harped on regularly. Like, you did not like the creator. Fair enough, right? You didn't like the creator? Wesley?
So, no, I did not.
Yes,
I was still reading.
But and it's not a comic book movie. But the point is, it was the CGI was so well done.
Yeah.
You at least felt like you were there with the characters.
Yeah. It wasn't. The approach was completely different. Whereas like something like Marvel, they design the environment of the shot first, and then try to figure out how to put the characters in it. Whereas this was an approach of like, stay with the characters and then figure out what the environment is around them later, which is really hard, on the back end.
And that's how they end up with all the problems with going overtime. And they've talked about a lot of these visual effects houses have talked about how they get like endless work and they want 6 versions of a scene to see how it looks. And the end outcome, no matter how well done it is there is a disconnect between your eyes and what you're seeing on screen. And if your eyes can't even comprehend what you're seeing on screen is real, how do you expect yourself to then correspondingly connect emotionally with something that doesn't even feel the slightest bit real to you?
It doesn't connect to you emotionally either because it feels visionless. It feels like a committee kind of like saying, oh, you have to get this in here, you have to get this in there. It has to be broad, bigger, wider. And like the thing about the creator is what I took away from it. It's the same thing that makes the films of like Denis Villeneuve feel real is that he is like, how can I do this without doing this money shot style of filmmaking? But it grounds you. Like,
that's
when you
exactly
look at things.
when I was writing my notes for it, I was like, it felt like one of his movies. I think it's because of the perpetual dusk.
Well, I don't think it's that. I think it's that even though you're looking at the characters, it feels like you're a character in the movie and not omniscient, seeing everything, and that takes the specialty away from it. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't. You don't feel immersed. You feel like I'm looking at this from above, and it's not compelling. It's not immersive.
It's something you could get away with back in the day when people watched The Matrix. It was new, right? Or even like a better example is I love V for Vendetta, right? I love V for Vendetta, even though like some of the like the scene of him as the hospital burns down is very clearly fake, but that's one shot. That's a very quick shot in a movie that's almost entirely practical.
I would also counter that with saying, like, in both of those movies, the shots that they're doing that are a piece of art, whereas Marvel it's just stuff, and it's like constant stuff. Like Shang-Chi, man, like that ending is just CG mush.
Same
like
with
coming at you.
Ant-Man Part 3, I think is the one I saw in theaters. Don't recommend it.
I'm out on Marvel.
And I'm the same way, right? So, but he also makes the point of saying like less is more here, which is important, I think, because of the oversaturation of stuff in the market. Like at a certain point, it's the same reason a lot of people didn't start collecting comic books when they were younger, because they're like, look, I don't know where to jump in, and the sheer volume of stuff to watch. Yeah. It's like, I don't want to have to go through, like, I'm caught up, sure, on most of it, but I didn't watch Ant-Man. Yeah. I skipped Ant-Man.
Theoretically, there's a way to do what they're trying to do right now. Yeah. Like, to have those interconnected shows and such. But the problem is that they're saying, like, okay, let's get something out there. Yeah. Who cares what it is? Whereas rather than having a compelling story, and that's what's happening with their movies too, is like, oh, we got to make that next Captain Marvel movie. But like, well, what are we going to make? And like, I don't know, just make something. Yeah. And it's not like there's anybody coming with a vision. A film should be somebody's vision saying, like, I have this story that I want to communicate to you. They're like, no. We have plot points that have to happen.
Well, yeah, that's the point I always made. The point I always made is that it doesn't matter, like, every time they'd hire a director, my point was always like, look, they used to get these, like, no-name directors who had 1 or 2 credits. Sure, you'd get a Sam Raimi every once in a while. But at the end of the day, as much of Sam Raimi as there is in that movie, there's more Kevin Feige. Yeah. There will always be more Kevin Feige in that movie, which is why it helped in the beginning when it was new and it was a new concept, because it allowed everything to feel as if it existed within the same space. That was great for a while. Yep. That's not where we are right now anymore. And I think what people are actually hungry for are things that feel different. Yeah. Like, I don't want to go watch the Robert Pattinson Batman movies and then go watch the next James Gunn thing and have them feel the same. Yeah. Which is good. They shouldn't feel the same because they're not part of the same universe. One is separate, one is apart, and that's good.
What would be impressive is if, like, something like Marvel, where the movies for the individual characters did feel different from each other, but the team-up movies still feel cohesive. Like Thor: The Dark World feels really different than all the other Marvel movies. It looks different, it's paced different, has the same jokes and such, but because of that, it has gone from one of my least favorite to one of my favorite because it has some character.
Yeah. Is there you like that one?
I like it now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Like I haven't watched it in so long.
It's just it doesn't have that flat
it's how I feel about
Marvel
Hulk.
Look.
It's how I feel about but also, like, if you go back and you watch, like, I actually do encourage people to go back and watch the old X-Men movies. Because, like, one thing you benefit from is there isn't a joke every 5 seconds. Yeah. And it's great. Like,
they're also just good.
I was watching this thing.
Good acting.
I was watching this thing recently where it's just like, I thought I had really bad ADHD. It just turns out I wasn't designed to hear jokes every 5 seconds whenever I'm watching a piece of media. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So it's funny because the things he's pointing out here are not difficult fixes, but the corporate structure of these companies are so massive that turning would be like trying to turn the Titanic. Yep. Which you can't do on a whim.
Yeah.
Right? And they talk about that. He talks about how Marvel is going to be taking a less is more approach. But one of the things that they fail if they try to do that is, like, if that works, if every movie you then release ends up being really, really good and resonating with people. Mm-hmm. But if they don't, then you risk less stuff coming out, less money being made on the stuff that does come out, and then you just fade from cultural relevance even faster.
Yeah. But this is not a unique problem. It's the problem of every single industry, of not being about quality, not being about, like, your own mission. Yeah. It's about get as many things that we think people will like in front of your face to make you do the thing we want you to do. And it's this, like, morons version of psychology where it's like, you know what will make people like the movie? Like, if we wrote a good script, it's like, no. Make the lead character something that people empathize with right now, or that we perceive them to be. Make it right now, a young female lead who is smarter than the protagonist of the last movie and makes him look bad. Like, people are going to love that. It's like, well, no, they don't.
But you can keep trying.
Yeah.
The other thing that's funny is he says he did like the Flash movie, which, you know, Mike, look, I thought that as awful of a person as Ezra Miller is, I don't think he was awful in the movie. But the movie was so all over the place that it's very hard to say that it's good. But I thought he did fine as the lead character.
It's funny, like, literally everything he complained about, that's the Flash.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's the CGI.
All of it. Like so many things going on. No, like it feels so like studio heads coming up to him and being like, nope, can't have that. You got to have this because that's in right now. Make sure somebody's doing a TikTok in this movie. You know what I mean? Like that's popular right now. Don't worry about the story. Worry about the trappings of the movie. And that's what The Flash was. And he's like, but I like that one.
They also talk about genres in here. So he talks about, he says, I think there's been so many bad superheroes as well that it's like the Western. You make so many that people get bored of the genre. And that is true. Like people get like genre fatigue was a thing. Like there was a time when Westerns were really, really in. Oddly enough, we're in the middle of a weirdly popular Western resurgence right now.
Taylor Sheridan stuff.
Like, well, I mean a lot of that stuff too. But like I've been rewatching Deadwood, and it's not like that was 2004, I think, like 2004 to 2006 and stuff like that. So that genre's always existed. If you could, like, what would replace it? Like, if the idea here is like, look, take a break, don't make these movies for a while. Obviously, that will never happen. There's too much money to be made, or at least too much money to try and make.
I was going to say, like, they're losing it hand over fist.
Hold their rights. But like, what genre could replace it right now that you think people would have an interest in? Like, I don't see the Western stuff translating to the big screen the way it has.
You know what I think would?
Screen.
Powerful period pieces.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of a successful one recently?
Like, well, we don't know yet, but non 3.5 hour versions of Killers of the Flower Moon.
The $23 million in its opening weekend is soft, but not for Scorsese in the last decade.
Right, but that 3.5 hours, man, like that discourages me from. That makes me want to wait, and I want to see it in the theater. But if it was a tight 90 minutes, or like a good gritty crime. Like more of that you can like sink your teeth into and be like, this is realistic.
What I was
like
saying
The Departed.
What I want to see more of is a return to like the Tony Scott era $100 million movies that had some scope, but they were about more like Enemy of the State with Will Smith, or Deja Vu, which was essentially a time travel-esque film. I love those movies, and they were unique ideas. I just don't know. All of that type of genre has been replaced by IP.
Yeah, you're right. Or they'll take a script and be like, paste an IP on top of this, and then it's a mess. That's what like Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger's Tide was, like a book from the 80s, and they're like, just throw Pirates of the Caribbean on it, and it's like, it's not going to work.
I was even going to mention like Man on Fire, but even Man on Fire from Tony Scott was a remake because the original one came out like a decade before.
I think that like powerfully done period pieces, not these paint by the number ones like we get all the time, like the biopics and stuff.
Napoleon's
like that.
coming out with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, but it looks weird.
Yeah,
he has an American accent. Like it's very strange.
They did black Cleopatra and
that's
black.
True. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like. When they do these movies, like Killers of the Flower Moon is unique because it feels like an action movie in the way it's made. It doesn't feel like you're like, oh, this is just another like historical not docudrama, but a historical drama. It has energy. It has like a kinetic. If you took that superhero movie like technique and brought it to real stories, I think that would be really successful.
Isn't that kind of what
and people are so attached to the past right now. They like.
Yeah,
we really are. Like we're all looking for meaning backwards. So I think those movies like this, there are people that I know who have a connection to the story of Killers of the Flower Moon, and it's really like.
Did you watch Reservation Dogs?
No, I didn't.
Reservation Dogs was good.
Is it? It's Taika Waititi. Right?
He's producer. He's not. He didn't direct it, but he was a producer on it. There's a new Taylor Sheridan series coming out about Bass Reeves.
Okay.
So I'll link you to it later. I don't think we could show the trailer, the stuff that's out about it with I think it's LaMonica Garrett that's in it. But it's interesting because look, I love Kick-Ass. Did Kick-Ass? Sarah,
oh yes, I love that movie.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like I would like to see more stuff like that that's outside of the actual main genre.
Yeah.
I did see that they're working like the Spawn reboot is being done right now through Blumhouse.
You're right. It's being done by the original creator, right?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
McFarlane, right?
Yeah.
So, like, more of these types of, I would like to see those stories be told outside of those big two studios. Like, I don't need Marvel or Warner Brothers producing them for a while.
Yep.
Like, I'm fine.
Yeah, I would love to see approaches like the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where it's like
Golden Harvest.
No, the original.
No, 1990.
Yeah.
Golden Harvest produced it. Which was
okay.
like it was like an independent studio at that time.
Yeah, like where they're making a movie.
Yeah.
And not like a product.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, don't go buy our stuff.
And what's crazy about that is that came
Parks.
out after the success of the cartoon. Like, so it was already still IP. I mean, it was technically still IP at that time.
But they just, I'm assuming the big studios didn't see the potential.
That will never happen now because now the big studios will see the potential in it, so they'll fight to get the rights for these properties.
Or but they try to make it's that law of like you're trying to please everyone, so you will please no one.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Let a creator create, and like that doesn't mean you shouldn't have some oversight on it. See the Star Wars prequels, but like there has to be some way to do that. There has to be, because we did it before. There has to be some way to do this where people can make movies that don't feel like a curated, like 3-hour CGI session of making sure you check all the boxes.
I also feel like back when these things first started coming out, it's kind of like with The Matrix, right? Where it felt like you escaped to that world, or you were witnessing a world that I guess The Matrix is a bad example of that, but for a lot of these
Matrix is it's like an example of the opposite.
Yeah,
I think
like
that's why people like it.
But for a lot of them, it felt like you were escaping to another world that maybe you didn't want to live in, but it didn't feel like it was part of the world you lived in. Now there's so much overlap. You see it on your television, you see it in the stores, you see it on the screens, that it doesn't feel like you're escaping anything. If anything, it feels like you're just being bombarded by it on all sides, which takes away some of the magic.
Yeah.
Of the genre.
That started happening, like I started noticing that with Transformers when they made Barack Obama president, and I was like,
which one did they do that in?
I think Transformers 2.
Oh, that sucks because I love that movie.
Yeah, it like stops and he has this speech in the middle of a battle, and I was like, I don't like it. Just cast like what's
That
his
sucks.
face, you know, like
Wait,
Bruce
it actually
Greenwood or
Obama?
whatever as the president.
Dennis Haysbert.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
Obama actually in that movie?
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all. I must have blocked that
I
out
don't
of my
remember that
memory.
at all.
Yeah.
Like, and I love those first
It's
two
archival
Transformers movies.
footage.
Yeah,
But-
so it's
yeah.
actual.
Yeah.
It's from something that actually happened.
I
As I say, like he doesn't deliver like an actual line.
No, he's not
for the
performing.
movie.
It's archival footage, and they're cutting together different speeches to make it sound like he's talking about what's going on right now.
I was telling somebody, I was like, I would have loved to see what Michael Bay could have done if he had tried to make Transformers with as much restraint as he showed making 13 Hours, which is a very good movie. But it's not, and it's got all of the Michael Bay explosions. It's got all of the drone footage. It's got all of the sweeping camera shots. But it's just, it takes the material seriously.
Right.
And I can imagine that if he had tried to make that movie, because it's like, because it was a real world story, he had to approach it with more tact.
Right.
Like as much as I love most of his movies because they're over the top, I hated Ambulance, which came out in 2021. Right? It's just really, really bad. But I would have loved to see him try to take some of these less serious movies, but approach them with the same level of seriousness that he has been, known to be able to do when he really wanted to.
Right.
So
Like
that's
something
a bummer.
he actually has reverence for, which is very rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I still love them. They're fine. Somebody says, does Obama get residuals? I don't know. Maybe because they probably had to license it from a network.
Yeah, or it's like C-SPAN and like they're allowed to use it.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.